Whitney Houston demanded justice when security tried to eject black attendees. Her response was legendary. The rise of a queen. The 1980s were a decade of excess, innovation, and the undeniable emergence of a new kind of superstar. Amidst the synth-pop beats and power ballads, a voice emerged that transcended genres, captivated millions, and redefined what it meant to be a global music icon. That voice belonged to Whitney Elizabeth Houston. Born on August 9, 1963, in Newark, New Jersey, Whitney's destiny seemed preordained. Her mother, Cissy Houston, was a gospel and soul singer of formidable talent, and her cousins included the legendary Dionne Warwick and Dee Dee Warwick. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, was her honorary aunt. Music wasn't just a career path for Whitney. It was the very air she breathed, the language of her soul, and the foundation of her identity. Her early life in Newark was steeped in the rich traditions of gospel music. She began singing in the New Hope Baptist Church choir at a young age, her powerful voice already hinting at the greatness to come. It was in these hallowed halls that she honed her vocal prowess, learning control, emotion, and the ability to connect with an audience on a deeply spiritual level. The gospel tradition instilled in her not just musical discipline, but also a profound sense of community, faith, and an understanding of struggle and resilience. These values, rooted in her upbringing in a predominantly black community, would shape her worldview and inform her actions throughout her life. Whitney's ascent to stardom was nothing short of meteoric. Discovered by the legendary Clive Davis, head of Arista Records, she was meticulously groomed for superstardom. Her self-titled debut album, released in 1985, was a phenomenon. It spawned 3 consecutive #1 singles, Saving All My Love for You, How Will I Know, and Greatest Love of All. The album sold over 25 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling debut album by a female artist at the time. Her follow-up, Whitney, 1987, continued her reign, becoming the first album by a female artist to debut at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart. With hits like I Wanna Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me and Didn't We Almost Have It All, she solidified her status as a pop and R&B powerhouse. What set Whitney apart was not just her extraordinary vocal range and technical precision, but the sheer emotional depth she brought to every note. Her voice was a force of nature, capable of soaring highs and tender whispers, conveying joy, heartbreak, and triumph with equal conviction. She was a crossover artist in the truest sense, breaking down racial barriers on MTV and dominating charts across genres. She became a global ambassador for American music, performing for presidents, royalty, and millions of fans across every continent. Beyond her musical achievements, Whitney also ventured into acting, most notably starring in the 1992 film The Bodyguard. The film's soundtrack, featuring her iconic rendition of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, became the best-selling soundtrack album of all time and earned her a Grammy Award for Album of the Year. This period marked the zenith of her commercial success, cementing her status as the voice, a title bestowed upon her by fans and critics alike. But beneath the glamour and the stratospheric success, Whitney Houston remained a woman deeply connected to her roots and her values. Her commitment to social justice, though not always overtly political in her public statements, was evident in her actions and the way she carried herself. She understood the significance of her position as a black woman achieving unprecedented success in a predominantly white industry. She was a role model, a symbol of aspiration, and a testament to black excellence. She used her platform to support various charitable causes, including the United Negro College Fund, the Children's Defense Fund, and efforts to combat AIDS. Her philanthropic work, often conducted quietly and without fanfare, reflected a genuine desire to give back and uplift those less fortunate. Her values were shaped by her faith and her family, emphasizing respect, dignity, and equality for all. She believed in the power of music to heal, to unite, and to inspire change. This deep-seated belief in justice and fairness would be put to the test in a moment that would become a legendary testament to her courage and integrity. It was a moment that transcended her musical genius, revealing the true character of the woman behind the voice, a queen who would not stand idly by when injustice reared its ugly head. Her commitment to her community and her unwavering belief in human dignity were not just abstract ideals. They were principles she was prepared to defend, even at the height of her fame. If you're inspired by Whitney's journey and her unwavering spirit, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss more stories of legendary figures. The year was 1989, and Whitney Houston was at the absolute pinnacle of her career. Her third album, I'm Your Baby Tonight, was on the horizon, and she was a global phenomenon, recognized and adored in every corner of the world. The incident in question unfolded at an exclusive, high-profile event in a major metropolitan city, a gathering attended by celebrities, industry titans, and the social elite. The venue itself was known for its opulent decor, its stringent door policies, and its reputation as a playground for the privileged. It was the kind of place where status was paramount, and unspoken rules often dictated who belonged and who did not. Whitney arrived, as she often did, radiating an aura of grace and effortless glamour. She was accompanied by her entourage, which included family members, close friends, and professional staff. The atmosphere inside was buzzing with anticipation, the air thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and the murmur of sophisticated conversation. For Whitney, these events were a regular part of her life, a necessary component of her public persona, but she always carried with her a grounded sense of self, a quiet awareness of the world beyond the velvet ropes. As the evening progressed, a subtle but disturbing pattern began to emerge at the entrance. Members of Whitney's own party, specifically several Black attendees who were not immediately recognizable as high-profile celebrities, began to report issues. Some were denied entry despite having legitimate invitations. Others, who had managed to get inside, found themselves subjected to undue scrutiny, followed by security, or asked to verify their credentials multiple times in a manner that felt targeted and demeaning. The complaints started as whispers, then grew into a chorus of frustration and indignation. Whitney, initially engaged in conversations and pleasantries, began to notice the tension. Her keen perception, honed by years of navigating complex social dynamics, picked up on the discomfort radiating from her friends and family. She saw the subtle glances, the hushed conversations, and the way security personnel seemed to be disproportionately focusing on Black guests, while white attendees, even those without clear identification, often sailed through unchallenged. It was a stark, undeniable display of racial profiling, thinly veiled beneath the guise of security protocols and venue policy. The breaking point came when a close friend, a respected professional who had been invited personally by Whitney, was unceremoniously escorted towards the exit, accused of not belonging. The friend, humiliated and angered, sought out Whitney to explain what had happened. The story was clear. Despite being well-dressed, polite, and holding a valid invitation, he had been singled out, questioned aggressively, and ultimately deemed unsuitable by a security guard who offered no concrete reason beyond vague assertions of maintaining order. Witnessing the distress of her friend, and having heard similar accounts from others in her party, Whitney's demeanor shifted. The radiant smile that had graced countless magazine covers and concert stages hardened into an expression of resolute determination. The injustice was palpable, a stark reminder that even at the highest echelons of society, racial prejudice persisted, attempting to diminish and exclude. For Whitney, this was not just an inconvenience. It was a personal affront, an attack on her community, and a violation of the fundamental principles of respect and equality she held dear. She did not hesitate. Without a moment's thought for her own image, her schedule, or the potential repercussions, Whitney Houston moved directly towards the source of the problem. Her eyes, usually sparkling with warmth, now held a fierce intensity. She approached the security personnel and, with a voice that was calm but carried an undeniable authority, demanded an explanation. Her initial questions were direct, cutting through the evasions and bureaucratic jargon. She wanted to know why her guests, her friends, her family, were being treated with such blatant disrespect and discrimination. The security guards, initially taken aback by the direct confrontation from such a global superstar, attempted to deflect, to offer excuses, to minimize the situation. But Whitney was not to be deterred. She had witnessed the injustice firsthand, and her resolve was unshakable. This was not just about a few individuals being inconvenienced. It was about a systemic issue, a pattern of behavior that sought to exclude and demean based on race. The night had indeed changed everything, transforming a glamorous social event into a battleground for dignity and justice, with Whitney Houston standing firmly on the front lines. What are your thoughts on Whitney's immediate response to injustice? Share your opinions and engage with us in the comments section below. The air in the exclusive venue crackled with an unspoken tension as Whitney Houston, the undisputed queen of pop and R&B, confronted the venue's management. Her initial exchange with the security personnel had quickly escalated, drawing the attention of higher-ranking officials who now found themselves face-to-face with an artist who was not just famous, but fiercely principled. The manager, a man accustomed to handling minor celebrity grievances with smooth diplomacy, was visibly flustered. He attempted to placate her with apologies, vague promises, and the standard corporate rhetoric about misunderstandings and strict security protocols. But Whitney was not interested in platitudes. Her voice, though not raised in a shout, carried an undeniable weight, each word imbued with the power of her conviction. She articulated her demands with clarity and unwavering resolve. First and foremost, she demanded that every Black attendee who had been unjustly denied entry or ejected be immediately allowed back into the event, with sincere apologies from the venue staff. She insisted that the discriminatory behavior cease immediately and that all guests be treated with equal respect, regardless of their race or appearance. "This is unacceptable," she stated, her eyes fixed on the manager. "My guests, my friends, my family, are being targeted because of the color of their skin. This is not a misunderstanding. This is discrimination, and I will not stand for it." The manager, caught between the desire to maintain the venue's pristine image and the formidable presence of a global superstar, tried to negotiate. He suggested a private apology, perhaps a complimentary drink for the affected guests. But Whitney was unyielding. She knew that a superficial gesture would do nothing to address the systemic issue at hand. She demanded a public acknowledgement of the wrongdoing, an assurance that the staff involved would be held accountable, and a commitment to review and reform their discriminatory practices. Her ultimate demand was a powerful ultimatum. If her guests were not immediately reinstated and treated with the dignity they deserved, she would not only refuse to perform, if she was scheduled to, or simply refuse to remain at the event if she was a guest of honor, but she would also publicly denounce the venue and its discriminatory practices. This was not a threat made lightly. Whitney Houston's word carried immense weight, and a public condemnation from her could cripple the reputation of any establishment. The manager understood the gravity of her stance. The financial and reputational damage would be catastrophic. The confrontation was not a private affair. Whispers quickly spread through the opulent halls. Other celebrities, industry executives, and journalists present began to take notice. Some watched in stunned silence, others in admiration, and a few, perhaps, in discomfort, preferring to avoid such direct confrontations. But Whitney, oblivious to the varied reactions, remained focused on her mission. She was not performing for an audience. She was fighting for justice. The media, ever present at such high-profile events, quickly caught wind of the unfolding drama. Initial reports were cautious, hinting at an incident involving Whitney Houston and venue security. But as details emerged, the narrative began to solidify. Journalists, sensing a powerful story, started to gather accounts from witnesses and the affected attendees. The venue's attempts to control the narrative were largely unsuccessful against the sheer force of Whitney's integrity and the undeniable truth of the situation. The story began to leak to the press, painting a picture of a beloved icon standing up against racial injustice. While some initial reports might have tried to frame it as a diva outburst, the consistent accounts of blatant discrimination against Black guests quickly shifted public perception. The media, often eager for scandal, found itself reporting on a story of courage and principle. Whitney's actions resonated deeply with a public that was increasingly aware of racial inequalities, even in seemingly progressive environments. Her refusal to back down, her insistence on accountability, and her willingness to leverage her immense power for the sake of others cemented her image not just as a musical genius, but as a woman of profound moral character. She was not just singing about the greatest love of all, she was embodying it, demonstrating that true love extends to fighting for the dignity and respect of every human being. In that moment, Whitney Houston transcended her celebrity, becoming a powerful advocate for justice, a queen standing her ground against the insidious forces of prejudice. If Whitney's courage in standing up for what's right resonates with you, please hit the like button to show your support for her legendary actions. Whitney Houston's unwavering stance against racial discrimination at the exclusive venue sent shockwaves far beyond the immediate confines of the event. The consequences of her actions were immediate and far-reaching, creating a ripple effect that touched the venue, the entertainment industry, and public discourse on racial justice. For the venue, the fallout was severe. The initial media reports, fueled by Whitney's public condemnation and the testimonies of the affected attendees, quickly turned into a public relations nightmare. The venue, once a symbol of exclusivity and prestige, was now branded as a place of discrimination. Bookings plummeted, high-profile events were canceled, and its reputation was severely tarnished. Faced with potential boycotts, legal action, and the immense pressure generated by Whitney's celebrity, the management was forced to issue a public apology. This apology, initially perceived as reluctant, eventually included a commitment to diversity training for its staff and a complete overhaul of its security protocols to prevent future incidents of racial profiling. The incident served as a stark warning to other establishments that discriminatory practices would not be tolerated, especially when a figure of Whitney's stature was willing to speak out. The entertainment industry's response was largely one of admiration and solidarity. Many artists, who had perhaps experienced similar subtle or overt forms of discrimination but had remained silent for fear of jeopardizing their careers, found inspiration in Whitney's courage. Several prominent Black artists and public figures publicly lauded her actions, praising her for using her platform to address a critical issue. This collective support amplified her message, turning a single incident into a broader conversation about systemic racism within the industry and beyond. While there might have been a few voices who privately criticized her for making a scene or being difficult, their opinions were largely drowned out by the overwhelming chorus of approval. The incident also had a tangible impact on venue policies across the industry. Promoters, club owners, and event organizers, wary of suffering a similar fate, began to review their own security practices and diversity policies. There was a noticeable shift towards more inclusive training programs and a greater emphasis on cultural sensitivity among staff. While not every venue underwent a complete transformation overnight, Whitney's actions undoubtedly contributed to a heightened awareness and a push for more equitable treatment of all patrons, regardless of their background. It served as a powerful reminder that the entertainment spaces, often seen as havens of escapism, were not immune to the societal prejudices that plagued the wider world. Support for Whitney poured in from unexpected quarters. Fans, both Black and white, rallied behind her, celebrating her integrity and her willingness to put her career on the line for a cause she believed in. Her record sales, far from being negatively impacted, saw a surge, as her actions resonated with a public hungry for authentic heroes. She became more than just a singer. She became a symbol of strength and moral conviction. This incident, rather than diminishing her star power, solidified her status as an artist who stood for something meaningful, someone whose voice extended beyond the notes she sang. Other artists, inspired by her example, began to speak more openly about their own experiences with discrimination and to advocate for change. The incident contributed to a growing movement within the entertainment world to address issues of representation, equity, and inclusion. It demonstrated that individual acts of courage, especially from those with significant platforms, could indeed ignite broader movements and force institutions to confront their biases. Whitney Houston, through her decisive action, had not only demanded justice for a few individuals that night, but had also contributed to a larger, ongoing struggle for racial equality. Her legacy was not just in her unparalleled vocal talent, but in her unwavering commitment to human dignity, proving that true artistry often goes hand in hand with social responsibility. Want to hear more untold stories of courage and integrity from the world of music and entertainment? Subscribe to our channel and join our community. The reverberations of Whitney Houston's legendary stand against racial discrimination at that exclusive venue echoed far beyond the immediate aftermath, cementing her legacy not just as a musical icon, but as a powerful advocate for social justice. Her actions that night became a touchstone, a vivid illustration of what it means to leverage one's platform for the greater good, and a testament to the enduring power of integrity in the face of injustice. The long-term impact of her stance was profound. For the entertainment industry, it served as a critical moment of introspection. While progress is often slow and incremental, Whitney's public confrontation forced a spotlight on the subtle and overt forms of discrimination that often permeated high-end establishments and events. It empowered other artists, particularly Black artists, to speak out more forcefully against similar injustices, knowing that they had a powerful precedent set by one of the biggest stars in the world. Her courage helped to chip away at the culture of silence that often allowed such discriminatory practices to persist unchecked. It underscored the idea that celebrity status came with a responsibility, a moral obligation to use one's influence to challenge inequality. What it meant for the entertainment industry was a subtle but significant shift in accountability. Venues and event organizers became more cautious, understanding that a single act of discrimination could lead to severe reputational and financial consequences, especially if a prominent figure like Whitney Houston was involved. This incident contributed to the ongoing conversation about diversity and inclusion, pushing for more equitable practices not just in front of the camera or on stage, but behind the scenes and at the very gates of exclusive events. It highlighted the fact that true equality meant equal access and respect for all, regardless of their perceived status or the color of their skin. Whitney Houston's enduring influence on social justice is multifaceted. Beyond this specific incident, her very presence as a globally adored Black woman, breaking records and shattering barriers, was a powerful statement in itself. She represented excellence, grace, and undeniable talent, challenging stereotypes and inspiring millions. Her music, often filled with messages of love, hope, and self-worth, resonated with people from all walks of life, transcending racial and cultural divides. When she chose to speak out, her voice carried the weight of her entire career, her heritage, and her unwavering belief in human dignity. Her legacy of courage is a reminder that true artistry is often intertwined with a deep sense of humanity and a commitment to justice. It's not enough to simply entertain. Sometimes, one must also challenge, confront, and demand. Whitney Houston, the girl from Newark who became a global queen, understood this implicitly. She knew that her voice was not just for singing. It was also for speaking truth to power, for defending the marginalized, and for demanding a world where everyone is treated with respect and equality. In an era where celebrities are often criticized for their silence on social issues, Whitney Houston's actions stand as a powerful counter-narrative. She demonstrated that integrity is not a commodity to be traded for popularity, but a core value to be upheld, even when it means confronting uncomfortable truths. Her response that night was not just legendary. It was a beacon, illuminating the path for future generations of artists and activists to stand their ground, demand justice, and use their voices to create a more equitable world. Her courage continues to inspire, reminding us that true greatness lies not just in talent, but in the unwavering commitment to what is right. What are your final thoughts on Whitney Houston's incredible act of courage and its lasting impact? Like this video, leave a comment with your reflections, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories of legendary figures.